Do you feel like life has lost its meaning, as if like you're numb to things that you used to enjoy and the pleasure has been zapped out of the things that you used to love? You might be thinking in your head, man, this is crazy. I'm completely making this up. This is not a real feeling. But what if I told you two things? One, what you're experiencing is very, very real. And two, it has a name. And while it might seem that life has no meaning right now, I promise you by the end of this video, if you don't want to be drowning in that sea of numbness forever, I'm going to show you exactly what it is that you're going through. And more importantly, how you can stop living your life on autopilot and instead start to experience joy in your life once more. So what you're going through is something called Anhedonia. Now, that's a funny sounding name. I've butchered the pronunciation more times than I'd like to admit, but what it means is you have the difficulty of experiencing pleasure or joy or interest in things that you used to enjoy. Basically, it's the feeling of not being able to feel. And the way that I like to visualize it is that you don't have extremes. There's no, I did something really fucking cool, so I'm very happy about it. And there's no, I did something really bad, so now I'm very sad about it. It's almost as if you have this emotional flat line. There are no swings or roundabouts in how you perceive or react to the world around you. And because of that, you feel like somebody has turned out the light. And there are two types of anhedonia. You have motivational and reflective anhedonia. Motivational is what it sounds like it is. You just don't have the motivation to do anything. And because of that, you never do anything. And reflective anhedonia means you've gone out, you've done something that you typically would enjoy, but when you reflect upon it, you think, fuck, that was a waste of my time. I'm disappointed and I didn't enjoy that experience one single bit. A good way to describe that is almost like you're waiting for something, but you're not entirely sure what you're waiting for. I want to research deeper into this because I've experienced this for the last 3 years. I learned there was something called hedonic gloss. Now, it sounds like I've just made that up and I wish that I had, but what that means is your brain applies shine to things. We give emotional glow to things that we love. It could be a coffee cup, it could be a pet, it could be a partner. We emotionally prop those things up because they can then reliably bring us joy. And when those things that you so used to rely on become the things that you can no longer rely on, you give up trying to understand what it is that's causing that, and more importantly, if you're even bothered about fixing it, because you know you don't care about the outcome. But it creates the question, what would make a seemingly healthy brain go from functioning pretty normal to losing interest in pleasure and joy and experience in life how it once used to be? Now, there's lots of ways that anhedonia can be caused, but I'm going to focus on the most common and the one that I have the most experience with, which is a continued chronic exposure to stress. Now, this can come from anything. It can come from your work. It can come from your friendships, your family life. What the most important thread is out of all of those things, the stress factor comes from not being rewarded, or in fact, just expecting disappointment from life because that's all you seem to be used to. Because you continuously accept that reward and praise is actually pretty rare, so you stop going looking for it. You don't care whether or not you get it. You don't care whether or not you lose. In fact, you don't really give a shit about anything. But you carry that aspect of disappointment and numbness into every aspect of your life. You simply cannot learn to differentiate between despair and disappointment. And they are two very different isolated emotions. But when we feel like this, when we feel and experience anhedonia, they merge into one. Disappointment and despair become who you are. So these external factors, your life, your family, your friends, your job, these are all things that can influence you whether you like it or not. But then you, of course, have your internal factors, the things like repetitive negative thinking. Because when the external factors are so bad, guess what you do? You isolate. You stay away from people. You avoid situations that you would typically engage in because you're just so fucking fed up with feeling like nothing matters anymore. So you're like, why do I need to go out and experience it in the first place? You begin willingly to almost start to strip the experiences that you used to love from your day every single day until you're left with nothing. You're left with no hobbies, you're left with no friends, you're left with just your thoughts and the loop, the perpetual loop of disappointment and I don't know why I'm doing this and what is the point of all this in the first place, which is a horrible place to be. I can completely sympathize with you. I've been there. I know what it's like. It feels like life is pulling you in one direction after you've tried so hard to get where you currently are. And to give you a personal story, I've done this. I spent the better part of 2 years trying to build something for myself. Something that I propped up so fucking high in my estimations. I gave up everything. I sacrificed dinners, I sacrificed birthdays, I sacrificed joy and happiness for the single focus of being able to achieve something that I perceived as fantastic and great and awesome. The expectations that you set yourself very quickly don't become reality. And so that peak of excitement and sacrifice very quickly becomes a ladder of disappointment, uninterest, and detachment. And I was fucking genuinely worried that I would never feel happiness or experience joy ever again. And that is a daunting feeling. Didn't know where to look. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what the name of it was. I just knew that I was experiencing something that I had never felt before. And the joy being sucked out of my life just was something I was completely unprepared for. And then just by chance, as if life always does this, when you're not looking for something, you find the answer. And it happened to me. By chance, I just found that relearning and reintroducing joy into my life and happiness for the small things, it can absolutely happen again. But when you're not consciously looking for it, it becomes very difficult to see that. But when it passively happens to you, it's the most incredible and amazing feeling, but you need to put yourself in situations and in positions for that to happen in the first place. Serendipity doesn't happen by chance. I know that's a bit counterintuitive, but you need to put yourself in positions where serendipity is more likely to happen. So here's the biggest tip and strategy that I learned that changed fundamentally everything about how I experienced joy and how I started to bring that light and that color back into my life. Because dealing with anhedonia can come from a multitude of different things. Now, it can be medicinal, it can be therapy, it can be a combination of the two. But I don't want to speak to things that I'm not qualified to give you advice on. So what I'm going to instead tell you is what worked for me. And that is something called behavioral activation. Now, I struggle with the R there. I don't know if you heard that. However, we move. And all that means, strip it back to simple layman terms, is that you commit to something irrespective of the fucking outcome and how you feel about it. It's motivation without the motivation. If you can commit to something and you're committed to the consistency of something, not the activity, you lose interest in whether or not you're being rewarded. What you instead gain interest of is whether or not you can carry it on. And this worked for me. Personal story. I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a year ago. I saw it on a Joe Rogan podcast. I've heard it from James Smith, and I was like, I'm going to give this thing a fucking go, and I'm just going to see what happens because everything else sucks. So I'm already expecting this to suck. I went in there with no expectations. I went in there with pure, not hatred, but almost I'd set the scene that this is going to be shit, I'm going to be numb to it, and this is going to be a completely wasted experience. But what I instead found was something that my brain desperately fucking needed, because I forced myself into the situation and I realized that joy can be found in the strangest places as long as you give it the opportunity to. And there are 3 core themes about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and behavioral activation that I picked up on that I think if you bring them into every aspect of your life, you will see a very gradual change in how you start to think and feel about joy and the small things once again. And those 3 core themes were discipline, positive feedback loops, immediate and external positive feedback loops, and your ability to separate your emotions from the outcome. If I was to break down each of those 3 things, what is it ultimately doing? It's building the mental toughness and the mental resilience of the fact that what you're experiencing might not be what you want to experience. You accept the fact that where you are right now is just where you are right now. You can do fuck all about it. So rather than trying to fight it constantly in your head every single day, trying to fix it, you embrace it. I feel like shit. I feel like life is numb right now. Can I do anything about it today, right now, this second? No, I can't. Does that mean I should stop functioning like a human being? No, it doesn't. If you don't want to do something, just the thought of you envisioning your own success is just too far-fetched, then why don't you try to take responsibility for somebody else's success? Because when you experience anhedonia, and this is from my own personal experience, you might not be going through the same, but it doesn't apply to somebody else, which is the fucking worst thing ever. Because when people do good things or people experience bad emotions, I'm able to sympathize. I'm able to feel joy. I'm able to feel sadness for them. But when it comes to me, it just doesn't work. And it's a real fucked up trick that our brain likes to do in us. you will subconsciously start to enjoy life a little bit more, even when you're trying your best not to. The big takeaway there, more than anything I could give you, is that it's reassuring to know that it can go away, and the feeling is not only real, but it's manageable and it's reversible. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be overnight. I'm not saying this is going to be a weekend job. It's going to take months. For some people, it might take years. But behaving your way into feeling something again is a damn cry better than not trying to feel anything ever again in your life. And if you are feeling like you're overthinking the process, if you're struggling to just put pen to paper and work out a plan of what you're going to do next and how you can start to behave your way into action, I've got a video here about overthinking and how you can start to deal with regimes and structure and different goals that you can set for yourself every single day, detaching yourself from the outcome so that you can become an unfoggy, loving person of the world like you used to be and let go of the person that you currently are.